Chronicles, Fiction, The Apostle of Insanity Trilogy, Volume 2, Frenzy, by John Allen Price. Chapter 10. From the sound of your chamber, you're quite busy, curator, said Ragathol, as his entourage approached the entrance of one of the Citadel's prisoner processing chambers.
Yes, my master. Busy,
responded Chief Curator Precor, a soft giggle running through his answer.
The raid was most successful. We have much to work with. Come, I'll show you the prize.
The noises Ragathol made note of were the moans and screams of the Bauhaus prisoners, at least those who were still alive. Inside the cavernous chamber were row after row of beds, giving it the appearance of a giant hospital ward. But the beds were slabs of stone, and the medical personnel were Dark Legion curators. Their tattered, blood-stained clothing and medieval-looking implements were grotesque parodies of humanity's versions. For the most part, the curators appeared interested in giving pain, not relieving it. For those prisoners still alive, if just barely, they were busy giving injections that started screaming fits or attaching slug-like black hearts to their chests. And for the dead, they were being harvested instead of autopsied. Their limbs and vital organs were hacked from their bodies and carried from the cavern. Of the hundreds of prisoners taken from Base Aquila, there was only one the curators left relatively alone. The stone slab she lay on had been provided with a thin mattress. She was not restrained with heavy steel manacles, and the equipment hooked into her appeared to be sustaining her life instead of killing her or driving her mad. "Greetings, receptacle," said Ragathol upon reaching Lorraine Coven's bed. "I've been waiting for you, expecting you. Do you remember me?"
She will not answer you, my master,
said Precor, a sickening lyricism to his words.
She's aware of her surroundings, but we have her in a trance-like state. We think she never rose out of the one you maintained her in on Luna.
I think she'll respond to me. Ragathol bent his massive frame until his face was only a few inches from Lorraine's. The humans who rescued you on Luna thought they could hide you here, didn't they? Where there's no place you can hide from the servants of Algeroth and the Dark Legion. We have need of you, receptacle, and soon you'll serve him as well. You're beyond the reach of humanity now. Perhaps if its various entities had united, they could have saved you. But now, there is no chance. All the while he spoke, Lorraine's blank eyes seemed to stare through Ragathol to the chamber's ceiling, where the cries and screams of those around her seemed to gather and echo. Only when she finished did the eyes blink a few times, and tears roll out of them. "Good. I see you understand," Ragathol concluded, raising his head and laughing triumphantly. "And soon you will accept." "Calicabal." "Yes, my master," said the necromutant, moving to the front of the entourage. "What do you wish?" "Complete the courier ship's preparations for launching. Be sure there's enough provisions for the flight to Algeroth's defiled castle. We leave when everything is ready."
What else would you wish done with her, my master?
Said Precor,
Do you wish for the attachment of a black heart for the journey?
No. She may look frail, but there's no need to reanimate her, said Ragathol. Have her move to one of the isolation chambers, close to my nether room. The sounds and smells must be upsetting to her. I want her state to be serene before we leave. See to it personally, Precor. From now on, she is your only duty. I see news reached here ahead of us, Hunter grumbled, as he, Alvarez, and Rogers stepped inside the officers' barracks. Instead of being greeted with cheers and words of praise from the other Special Forces personnel, they got silent, sympathetic stares and a few acknowledging nods. So much for the security net thrown around the mission. We were in debriefing for so long. It's no wonder they know about us, said Rogers. By now it must be old news. I still don't see where Calvin got off calling us failures, said Alvarez. Like Hunter, she was tired, though still defiant. All of us got back alive, and we didn't create a major incident with Bauhaus. What do you say, Raymond? That I need a shower and a lot of rest. If you don't mind, guys, I'm all argued out. I understand, said Hunter, stopping at the barracks elevator core and pressing the wall button. We all need what you mentioned. Go crash the showers, Ray. We'll see you later. Julia, let's find out if our friends left us anything. Fortunately, Hunter and Alvarez did not have to share the elevator they got with anyone else. On his floor, the reception was scarcely any better than what they received in the lobby. A few I'm sorries mixed in with sympathetic stares, and it was not until they were in the quarters that either felt safe to speak openly. I bet we'll be taken off duty now, Alvarez warned. Calvin's been looking for an excuse to do so. We just handed him the best one he'll ever get. Debrief would have gone easier if our shadow friend had been there, Hunter said idly, hitting the replay toggle on his message recorder. I hope Jake's right about him, and he was at some kind of stockholders meeting. Well, he was right about our adversary having blonde hair. Maybe we should pay more attention to his wild claims. Mitch, is that one from Tim? They're all from Tim. There must be half a dozen messages on this machine. Why is he talking like that? Said Alvarez. It sounds like nonsense. Quiet. It's supposed to, Hunter informed, leaning an ear closer to the recorder, as if he needed to hear every word in the brief messages. And from what I can gather, it sounds like Tim's arranged the meeting we wanted with his Brotherhood contact. When? Don't tell me it's tonight, Alvarez groaned, and literally had to peel her flight suit's sleeve back to the chronometer on her wrist. Ray is right about us. We all need a good shower and a long rest. This hasn't been one of our better days. Go get your shower and skip the rest until later. Hunter switched off the machine and picked up the telephone's handset. Without having to think, he began punching in a series of numbers on the keyboard's heavy buttons. Wendy, can you give us a booster shot to keep us going for a few hours? I'll get a hold of Tim. You let the rest of the squad know there'll be a meeting. After I set it up with Tim, I'll phone everyone to let them know when. All right, Alvarez sighed. Just let me know first. Most of those artifacts are still in the Cutlass. I'll need some time to retrieve them. If you're going to meet with the Brotherhood, I'd like them to explain the evidence we gathered. From the sound of your debriefing with Hunter's squad, it should have been there. Wood commented, circling the living room's array of sofas and chairs, making sure everyone was comfortable with what he or she had to drink before ordering the servants away. you browbeat the military commander and conducted a witch hunt.
Against someone who claims their failure was the result of an attack by little green aliens?
Said Hart, incredulous at Wood's accusation and trying not to show his anger.
You bet a kilo of casino chips I would. This is what you get when you support the insubordinate, Mr. Wood. I tried to warn you about it.
The evidence your own advisor team and the squad collected conclusively said the Dark Legion having attacked Base Aquila. Our surveillance efforts were able to sporadically track the raiding force. We finally lost it in the South Polar region, in an area known for Dark Legion activity. Surely you don't believe in the Dark Legion, Mr. Wood, said the Roswell city manager.
We all know there was a sort of alien encounter on Nero, but this Dark Legion spook talk is an invention of the Brotherhood in order to justify their existence.
I see you've not been to Mars recently, Wood answered, waiting for the executive suite's main doors to close behind the last servant before speaking. Seen the Dark Legion citadel grow in the wastelands, even in San Dorado. You could feel the towers shake from the battles we and the Brotherhood have fought with the Legion.
We know of the battles, said Varden, surprised at Wood's revelations, but we thought the enemies were Bauhaus and Mishima.
In a few of the battles, they still are, but most are against the Dark Legion. So far, we've been unable to drive them out, and they're impossible to defeat once they've established a citadel in an area. I think the same thing is happening here, and I've advised Charles Coldling of this.
You've spoken to the chairman of the stockholders?
Said Hart, so stunned his glass slipped out of his hand. What did he have to say? General Cirrus asked. That we must prevent what's happening on Mars from happening here, said Wood. I'll be flying to Athena tomorrow to help command staff prepare a major operation against this infestation.
And what about the woman?
Varden requested.
The VIP hunter squad was supposed to rescue?
The Dark Legion has her, Wood said somberly. She's deep inside their lair now. We could rescue her from Bauhaus, but not from them. The only escape for her and the others captured by the Dark Legion is death. Mr. Hart, gather all evidence your team and Hunter's squad collected from the Aquila and prepare it for me. Include everything, no matter how trivial you think it may be.
I should have guessed you'd be the last one to show up,
Hunter noted, responding to the sharp knocking on the apartment door.
The security at our hangar makes it difficult even for us to enter it,
said Alvarez, holding up a canvas bag,
let alone take things out of it.
With her arrival, the entire squad was in Small's apartment, except for Rogers. If anything, it was even more crowded than before. Portius and his flowing mystic robes filled up most of the living room sofas. It forced many of the squad members to stand if they wanted to be in the room and part of the conversation.
There, we can talk freely now,
said Small, setting the radius of his sonic disruptor and activating it.
I believe everyone's already met you, Portius. Except for you, Lieutenant. Portius, this is Lieutenant Julia Alvarez, squad's pilot.
Yes, the former Silent Vengeance pilot,
Portius noted, rising and bowing in Alvarez's direction. As he did so, his eyes focused on the bag she held and seemed to look right into it.
Like your compatriots, I'm pleased to meet you.
How'd you know I was once in Silent Vengeance?
Said Alvarez, immediately defensive and suspicious, mostly because of the drugs Wendy had given her earlier.
Don't be shocked, Lieutenant. The Brotherhood archives are the most extensive in humanity. We have some information on virtually everyone, especially military personnel.
Let's not get off on an antagonistic stance, said Hunter, accepting the bag from Alvarez. We're here to exchange information, not renew old suspicions.
Agreed,
Portius added, retaking his seat.
Timothy has explained to me your belief that you're facing the Dark Legion, and I've seen his evidence. Now I hear on your latest operation, you had a direct confrontation with the Legion. Can you illuminate?
We can do better than illuminate. We can do what they called in my school, show and tell. Hunter opened the bag and carefully removed what looked to have once been a Bauhaus MP-105 handgun. While it still had the basic design, its appearance was distorted by thorn-like projections growing out of it. Hunter gingerly worked the action to prove to Portius it still functioned and to show it was empty. He laid it on the table in front of him, and while it was being handled, Portius's eyes showed a mixture of repulsion and fascination. We think this is a Dark Legion weapon, Hunter continued, obviously based on the Bauhaus MP-105. We found it at the base where Bauhaus had been keeping Lorraine Coven.
And what of the woman?
Said Portius, taking his eyes off the weapon for the first time since its appearance. Gone. The base had been torn up by some type of Legion assault. We think they took her back to wherever they came from. Our superiors think we're crazy. They think the base was hit by Cybertronic, and weapons like this might be of their manufacture.
I can assure you this abomination did not originate with Cybertronic.
Portius's gaze returned to the weapon. He hesitantly reached out for it, running his fingers carefully over the projections.
You are partly right, Captain Hunter. This is a Dark Legion weapon, but it's no copy. This was once the human weapon you mentioned, until the Legion seized and corrupted it with their hideous necro-technology. You see, the Legion builds very little of its own equipment. They prefer to take what man has created and pervert it to their own uses, as they shall one day do to us, if they are not stopped.
What about those thorn things?
Venetti asked.
What good are they? My assistant cut his hand up on them. Has his hand been looked after? Treated?
Said Portius, glancing up and catching sight of Harris, waving his bandaged hand.
Have you received antibiotic injections?
Injections?
Said Harris, sarcastically.
At the base hospital, they practically turned me into a human pincushion. Good. With a wound delivered by a Dark Legion implement, one must be careful of spreading corruption. The exact purpose of those projections is unknown, but they do provide the weapon with many cutting edges, making it even more dangerous in a close quarters melee attack. That could explain the appearance of the Bauhaus dead we found,
Wendy concluded.
Except for those inaccessible areas, they were not only shot, they were torn up. Torn up. There's that phrase again,
said Portius.
The evil patterns of the dark symmetry are becoming even more apparent.
All right, here we go, said Shacker, throwing his hands up. The spook show starts. I knew we'd get to this, only I didn't think it'd be so soon. Hold it, Jake. Give him a chance to speak, Hunter suggested. Portius, we've discovered a lone survivor of the attack. He described it as being wild, that the Legion soldiers were everywhere at once, swarming and screaming. They moved so fast they apparently were unstoppable. Is this how the Dark Legion fights?
For the most part, yes,
said Portius.
Their attacks are sudden and terrifying. If you're unprepared for them, they will paralyze you to your soul. Their basic soldier is the Legionnaire, the dead from our own battlefields and cemeteries, reanimated by their necro-technology. They fight with an insane frenzy, but are mindless. They need to be led by a centurion or necromutant, or will not act at all. The creatures I mentioned were once human as well, but alive when captured. Distorted by Legion technology, they are monstrous living war machines and can take great injuries before dying. That's what we encountered in the hospital,
Wendy blurted out.
No wonder we had to shoot it so many times before we killed it. Wounding these creatures will not stop them. They must be destroyed. There is no glory in confronting them in close combat. If they get near to you, it's likely you'll be killed. You must use your firepower without mercy, Captain. For those humans corrupted by the Dark Legion, annihilation is their only release from living death. And who's behind them? So far, you've only told us about the humans who are turned into monsters. Who does the turning, and why are they out to destroy us? The heart of the Dark Legion are the creatures our explorers and settlers released from the imprisonment on Nero, said Portius, after taking a deep breath to help compose himself. Even so, beads of sweat started appearing on his black forehead and glistening softly in the room's light. The apostles of the Dark Symmetry and their generals, the Nephirites. All the others, from Techrons to Legionnaires, are either beings created by their hideous technology or perverted through it to serve their purpose. Where they came from and who imprisoned them on Nero is unknown to the Brotherhood. In reality, those questions are irrelevant to the struggle that lies before us. And no, my child, they're not out to destroy humanity. This is what they plan to do with us. After studying it for so long, Portius was able to slide his fingers around the corrupted weapon and lift it off the table without getting cut. They wish to seize us, defile and pervert us into their creation, and have billions of souls in unquestioning service to their dark ends. Perhaps then we'll learn the reasons why they were imprisoned and who did it. The cost, however, will not be worth the answers. Portius let the weapon fall from his hand, and though it only had about half a foot to drop, the momentum it picked up caused its sharp projections to embed in the table's surface. That left the gun positioned awkwardly and menacingly, its muzzle trained on Hunter. Nice trick, but your point has already been driven home, he said, glancing around the room at the rest of his squad. He found the incredulous and mocking smiles they had worn at the start of the meeting were replaced with more somber expressions. I think you have a squad full of believers. I hope it has, Captain, Portius warned, leaning against the sofa's back and relaxing a little. The Dark Legion is a threat that humanity has still only half awakened to. After countless centuries of being our own worst enemies, we're now confronted with an adversary whose threat far exceeds anything we can do to ourselves. I hope you understand well the gravity of all this and will steel yourselves for combat, the likes of which you've never experienced before. We must plan my arrival at his defiled castle to coincide with a period of light activity for Algeroth, said Ragathol, studying a map of the solar system displayed on his wall screen. A line arced around the planets, the path his courier ship would take to reach its outermost fringes and Nero. That way he can personally welcome me in triumph and glory.
A difficult task, my master,
responded Ekmirias, seated at the controls of the wall projector system.
It could be accomplished by changing certain aspects of your flight plan. I'm not experienced or skilled enough on these matters to accomplish what you need. Our most experienced pilot should be here.
Ah yes, Calicobal. I sense his presence growing stronger. Ragathol smiled and turned to the entrance to his nether room. Moments later, the massive hulking form of the anticipated necromutant appeared in the dim light spilling from the room's antechamber. Ragathol continued to smile until his servant was close enough for him to sense his anxiety. Yes, what is the trouble?
A problem has arisen in the courier ship, said Calicobal,
a slight tinge of fear in his voice.
Critical components in its main engine have failed and need to be replaced.
Then do so, Ragathol ordered, becoming irritated. Command Shagul to manufacture replacements and see to it my departure isn't delayed significantly.
It's not that easy, my master. The parts are manufactured out of molecularly bonded uranium alloy. They're beyond the capabilities of our necrotechnology to replicate.
You mean to tell me something this insignificant will deny me my triumph? Rising from his throne-like chair, Ragathol glowered at Calicobal when his skin glowed with an electric green light. The wrath of the apostles be upon you. The moment the Nephirite raised his arm, the green arcs dancing over his body sparkled on Calicobal's body. A little more slowly than the heretic, the necromutant was lifted off his feet and pinned against the wall. His face racked with pain. He did not bellow or scream. Instead, he concentrated his energy on giving an answer.
Master, this needn't delay you so long, he said. We can obtain the parts we need from outside sources. We can steal them from Capital.
Very well. Explain, said Ragathol, lowering his arm, and the instant the sparks stopped dancing on the necromutant's body, he landed on the floor with a resounding crash. What military base will we have to raid now?
No military base, my master. The parts we need are common to all Capital-built spacecraft, both military and civilian. The Atlantis spaceport will have large quantities of these parts. If we can organize a cell of heretics to steal them, then only a small raiding force need be used. It could be as small as a single Capital gunship.
Very good. Arrange it immediately.
Yes, my master,
Calicobal responded, lifting his heavy frame off the floor.
I'll see to it at once. I promise it won't delay you for long.
Wait, before you leave, said Ragathol, massaging his injured arm and finding he could still easily move it.
The pain you experienced when I summoned the powers, what did it feel like? It was exquisite, my master.
Excellent. I've regained my abilities. I am healed. Ragathol moved to the center of his room, where he spread his legs and raised his arms without difficulty to the apex of its domed ceiling. He laughed joyously as his body once again glowed with the power of the dark symmetry. I've triumphed over those who violated me on Luna. Go now, both of you. And when I bid your return, I expect to hear that our minions are preparing for the raid we'll launch. Mutant Chronicles, Fiction. The Apostle of Insanity Trilogy, Volume 2, Frenzy, by John Allen Price. Chapter 10. End.